Managing retainage on construction projects just got a lot simpler in Sage Intacct. With flexible retainage release, you can now release retainage across all invoice lines on a project contract at once, using a single percentage. No more line-by-line manual work. What is retainage release? Retainage is money withheld from each invoice line until work is completed and approved. Releasing it means unlocking those held funds. Traditionally, this has been done line by line, but now with flexible retainage release, you can enter one percentage and Sage Intacct handles the math across every line. So the old way of doing it was going through projects, generate invoices, and you would release the retainage on each line, which would create an AR retainage invoice release. Now we have the option to release all the retainage on the project contract at once. So to do so, we're going to head to the project module and we'll go into project contracts. I'm going to be releasing it on my contract here. Make sure you select edit. You won't be able to see this feature in view. So let's edit the contract. And go into the Billing Details tab, which houses all of your project contract invoices and retainage release invoices, as well as any AR invoice payments received. So now we have this option to release the retainage on all of the project contract invoices. So within this contract, I'm still holding 10% retainage. And I'm going to show you some examples. So in this scenario, I haven't released any retainage yet. I'm going to go from 10% to 5%, and so I'll be entering 50%. So here, there's some examples of project contract lines and the retainage being currently held. You can see here that no retainage has been previously released. So the way Sage will calculate this is it's going to take the 50% we'll enter to go from 10 to 5%, and it's going to multiply the retainage currently held on the line, and then it will subtract any previously retainage held. So my foundation work line was 1,000. I released 50%, and it released $500. And you can see here some other examples below. So let's do that. Okay, so now I'm back on the release retainage screen. You can see this is the total retainage held. You have the option to select these question marks, and you can read some more info here. So right here, this is the minimum percentage of retainage to release across all lines. I'd like to release 50%, so I'm going to enter 50%. And this is the GL posting date. You want to make sure this is after your invoice date. It can't be before the invoice date. So this is the total retainage being released, 50%. I'm going to enter my release date. And you can also add a description here. So let's release now. So Sage is releasing this on all lines of the contract, so you don't have to do it line by line. And you can see that there's been a batch created. Make sure to refresh your screen. Go back into the Billing Details tab. And now you'll see that there is a retainage release invoice created. And it released 50% on all lines. So you can print this if you'd like. Just creates the AR invoice. Another example is a partial release. So this means that you've already released retainage on lines and you need to add a release for retainage. So in this scenario, I've already released 50% across all lines. and now I'm entering 75%. So here are my project contract lines, what was originally held and what was already released. So the calculation here will be the new percentage of retainage release, 75%, and you're going to multiply the project contract line and then subtract what has already been released. So Sage won't release 75%, they're going to now release to catch up to what you've entered for 75% because you've already released 50%. So then you'll subtract what has already been released. So we've released $250 on this foundation work line. In this example, too, let's say you enter 40% and that's below the 50% you've already released. So if you enter a percentage lower than what's already been released, every line calculates to a 0 or negative, resulting in an error. So no batch will be created. You have to release retainage that is already over what you've currently released. So in my first example, you saw me release 50%. If I were to go into Intacct and release 40%, no batch will be created because it's below what has already been released. So you can see the calculation here for the foundation work line. We're taking the 40% entered, multiplying it by the project contract line amount, and subtracting the 500 from the 50% in my first example, leaving me with a negative $100. So the status of this batch has been skipped. No batch was created and all lines were skipped. So now let's go to scene 3. This is a release for all remaining retainage. Let's say you've released, we'll go with 50% retainage, and now I need to release all retainage. So in this example, you're just going to enter 100%, regardless of how much has previously been released. You're releasing it on all project contract lines. So retainage is now 0% on the contract. So with my foundation work line, I'm going to take 100%, multiply that by what was held, and I'm going to subtract what was already released. So it's going to release the remaining $500 and so on. Let's do an example of this now. So we're going back into the project contract I was working on, and we're going to release all of the retainage. So you can see the percent of total retainage that was previously released, that's 50. So now I want to release all the retainage, so I'm going to enter 100. Enter your GL posting date and release date. You can add a note. Select release. So let's see if that released all the retainage. Go back into the billing details tab, and you can see here that I received an error. The batch was not released because there wasn't enough retainage on that line, on those lines. So let's release on another contract. We'll pull up the project contract invoice that has been created. I'm just going to print it. And you'll see that we're still currently holding 10% retainage. So if I needed to go and release all of my retainage, I would enter 100%. So enter 100. Currently 10% was held. And now we're releasing 100%. You can refresh your page. Go into the retainage release invoices, and you'll see that all of the retainage that was held on my invoice, or if I had numerous invoices, it would all be released. Let's go to some examples of some errors you may receive. So how do you handle errors when you receive one? So let's say in the situation, an invoice line in a draft release batch you were trying to release. So if your invoice is in draft, you'll receive an error if you're trying to release retainage on that. What happens is the line cannot be included in a new batch while a draft batch exists for it. So what you need to do is to post or remove the draft batch line, then re-enter. Let's say the percent entered results in a 0 or negative release for a line. That line is going to be skipped and the batch will not be created. This happens when you've released 50% on lines and then you try to release something lower than 50%, so you try to release 30 or 40%. What you need to do, no action is needed. That line already is at what you've targeted. So you need to verify an AR retainage release. That retainage has been released already for the contract. Let's say the percent entered results in a 0 or negative for all lines. No retainage batch will be created. You need to confirm whether retainage is fully released, or you need to enter a higher percentage if more needs to be released. So a quick reference here, for first time release, you can enter any percent. So an example would be 50% or 25%. Intact will apply directly to any held amount per line. If you need to catch up to a new target, enter your new target. It can't be below what you've previously released. So if you've entered 50 and need to now release 75%, just enter 75%. Enter the total percent you want released, not the additional percent. So it's going to be the total amount you need released on the contract to catch up to the new target. If you need to release all remaining retainage, you'll just enter 100%. And this closes out all retainage across every line. Before your team uses this feature, confirm setup is complete. AR retainage is enabled in accounts receivable, as well as order entry transaction definitions. The user type needs to be set to business, construction manager, or project manager, and the correct AR and project contract permissions need to be assigned to the user. Flexible retainage release lets you release retainage across all invoice lines on a project contract with a single percentage. The percentage is a minimum target, not an incremental amount. Sage Intacct handles the line-by-line math and creates the AR retainage release batch automatically. If you have any questions, please reach out to our team. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.